You ever have one of those days where everything feels a little off? Not wrong, not disastrous, just off. That was my Tuesday. The office was half empty, the kind of quiet that hums in your ears when you've stayed too long in one place. Most of the team had left after the staff meeting at 5, but I'd stayed behind to finish some end-of-month reports. It was already past 7. The city outside the window slowly swallowing its last bit of daylight. Then came the buzz on my desk phone. "Mr. Langford would like to see you. Now." It was the voice of his personal assistant. Cold, clipped, always exactly 5 seconds from hanging up. I blinked at the receiver. Mr. Langford never asked for me. In fact, I was pretty sure he barely knew my name. Gerald Langford was the man. The founder, the boss, the billionaire whose face was on Forbes and Fortune, who could walk into a room and turn everyone silent just by existing. I'd worked at his company for nearly 6 years, kept my head down, showed up early, left late. Nothing glamorous, just stable. I told myself it had to be about the quarterly report. Maybe he had a question. Or maybe, I don't know, he wanted to thank me? The hopeful thought was so ridiculous it made me laugh under my breath as I straightened my tie and took the elevator to the top floor. The ride up felt longer than usual, the kind where your own reflection in the mirrored walls starts looking like someone else. When the doors opened, I stepped into silence. The top floor was another world, thick carpets, gleaming marble, and a smell that always reminded me of leather, money, and something colder. Langford's office door was open. No knock needed. He was standing by the wall, staring at a massive framed painting lying on the floor. Without looking at me, he spoke. "You're Thomas, right?" I nodded. He didn't wait for an answer. "I need that hung up there," he said, pointing above a stone fireplace. I looked at the painting, huge, heavy, and then at the wall. It was high, way too high to reach without a ladder. I glanced around. No step stool, no tools. So I offered the obvious. "I can grab a ladder real quick. Shouldn't take more than a—" "No need," he cut in, finally turning to face me. His eyes were calm, unreadable. "You'll do." I felt a strange tension crawl up my spine. "Sir?" "Just kneel down," he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My brain paused. I waited for the punchline. It didn't come. His hand was already reaching for the painting, ready to lift it, expecting me to be ready too. I stood there, frozen in the middle of this museum-sized office, a few steps away from the most powerful man in the building, and all I could think was, is this really happening? My mouth went dry. I looked at his face, calm, blank, not cruel, not mocking, just void, like I wasn't even human, just a thing to be used, a function, a step. He raised an eyebrow. "Well?" For a moment, I honestly thought I misheard him. There was no grin, no hint of sarcasm, just that same casual, almost bored expression on Langford's face, like he was asking me to pass a pen, not to kneel. The silence in that room was a vacuum, thick, unnatural. I stood there, blinking at him, trying to process what he just said. He was still holding the frame, both hands gripping the edges. It looked absurdly heavy, some abstract art nonsense with gold trim that probably cost more than my annual salary. He tilted his head ever so slightly. "You heard me, right?" His voice was flat, no emotion, no edge. But there was weight in it, the kind of weight that doesn't need to yell to be dangerous. I can grab a ladder," I said again, more quietly this time. "There's no need," he repeated. "Just kneel, right here." He pointed to the polished floor beneath him like it was normal, like I was supposed to understand this was just how things worked in his world. I stared at the spot, and then something inside me cracked. Not loudly, just the tiniest fracture, but I knelt. I don't know why. I wish I could say it was bravery or defiance that stopped me, but it wasn't. It was survival. That painting, that moment, that man, they weren't worth my job. At least that's what I told myself. My knees touched the cold marble, my palms pressed down, and before I could register anything else, I felt it. His shoe, on my back. It wasn't heavy at first. Just the contact sent a jolt through my whole body. Then came the full weight. He stepped on me, one foot, then the other, as if I were just part of the furniture. No words, no apology, no thank you. Just boots on my spine, pressure on my ribs, and the creaking sound of that stupid frame being lifted above us. I kept my eyes on the floor. My face was burning. My hands trembled slightly. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let it happen. The room was quiet except for the soft scrape of the hook and the frame settling into place. And then he stepped down. The weight left my back. He wiped his hands on his suit pants and walked to the other side of the room. "Looks good," he said, glancing at the wall, not at me. I rose slowly, not sure whether to stand or crawl out of the room. But he didn't even look my way again. He'd already picked up his phone and started scrolling. Like I was never there. Like I'd never mattered. I walked out without a word. The door clicked shut behind me, muffling the world again. But inside me, something was screaming. I don't remember the walk home. Not really. It was like my body was on autopilot, carrying me through the motions while my mind stayed behind. Still kneeling on that cold marble floor, still feeling the weight. I walked through streets lit by store signs and street lamps, past couples laughing on their way to dinner, past buses stuffed with strangers. The world moved forward like nothing had changed. But something had. In me. I reached the front door and paused, took a deep breath, rolled my shoulders, forced a smile. One of those brittle ones that doesn't reach the eyes, because I couldn't bring this home. Not this. "Hey, honey," my wife called from the kitchen, chopping something on a cutting board. "You're late again. Everything okay at work?" "Yeah," I lied, slipping off my shoes. "Just the usual." My son ran to hug me, clutching my leg like he hadn't seen me in days. I patted his head. My hands still shook. Just a little. Dinner was quiet. I poked at my food. They talked. I nodded in the right places, smiled when expected, but I barely tasted anything. And when I finally went to bed, I lay awake for hours staring at the ceiling, haunted not by the moment itself, but by the silence that followed. The silence I gave him. I had let him do it. Not because I respected him, not because I believed in the company, because I needed the paycheck, because the mortgage doesn't care about pride, because my son's tuition doesn't pause for dignity. My back ached. But the pain wasn't physical. It was the shame that hurt. It was the moment I realized I'd sold a piece of myself for a job. And what hit hardest wasn't what Langford did. It was that I didn't say a single word. No, don't. No, why? Not even a stunned, "Excuse me." Just silence. And that silence, it echoed, louder than a scream. It started with a glance. On Thursday morning, I walked into the office like I always did. Coffee in one hand, laptop bag in the other. But something was different. The conversations in the break room didn't pause when I entered. They shifted. Not louder, not quieter, just sharpened. Eyes flicked toward me, then away again. Too quickly, too deliberately. By lunchtime, I'd seen the same look at least 10 times. A passing glance followed by the subtle exchange of looks between two coworkers. Like they knew something I didn't. Then came the message. An anonymous one. Just a few words in my inbox. "You okay?" No context. No signature. I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, unsure how to respond. I typed, then erased. Typed again. Gave up. I left my desk to clear my head, taking the long way through the hallway behind the executive wing. That's when I saw them. 2 junior staffers huddled by the copier, watching something on a phone. They didn't see me coming. I swear, he just stood on him, like a stool. Like Thomas wasn't even a person. No way. Is this the security feed? Yeah. Someone leaked it from maintenance. I stopped cold. They looked up. One of them locked eyes with me. He froze. The phone disappeared into a pocket. They scattered like kids caught skipping class. And that's when it hit me. It was out there. The footage. The moment. I didn't know who leaked it. Or why. But it had surfaced. And the walls of the office were humming with it. By late afternoon, the tension had mutated. Whispers sharpened into speculation. Sympathy twisted into curiosity. Admiration and pity mixed together like oil and water. People looked at me differently. Not cruelly, not kindly either. Like I was fragile. Like I might snap. But Langford? Langford didn't flinch. He passed me in the hallway that evening on his way out, phone in hand, coffee in the other. Not even a nod. Just walked past like we'd never shared a room. Like his soles hadn't been on my spine 48 hours ago. It was business as usual. For him. And me. I felt like I was shrinking by the hour. The silence I'd carried like armor now felt like a noose. I kept telling myself, it's over. Just ride it out. Nobody really cares. It'll blow over. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't over. The breaking point didn't come at work. It came at home. In the quietest, most ordinary moment. And that's what made it worse. It was a Wednesday night. Dinner had been finished. The dishes were stacked. My son, Jonah, sat cross-legged on the living room floor, hunched over a sheet of long division problems. He squinted hard, biting his pencil like it owed him money. I sat beside him, trying to focus, trying to just be Dad for a moment. Not the man from the video, not the joke whispered around the office. Just Dad. He looked up and asked, "Is it okay if I do it this way instead?" I leaned in, checked his math, and I couldn't hold it anymore. It hit me like a punch from inside. My chest tightened. My throat closed. I opened my mouth to speak, but instead a sob cracked out of me. Jonah flinched. He looked scared. I turned my face away, but it was too late. The tears came in a rush, ugly, silent, uninvited. The kind of tears you don't plan, the kind that have been waiting too long to be seen. "Dad?" He reached for me with his small hand. I couldn't look at him. Not yet. I covered my face and just broke. My wife came in from the hallway, her expression shifting from tired to confused to concerned in the span of seconds. She rushed over and knelt beside me. "What happened?" she asked, voice soft but urgent. "Thomas, what's wrong?" I shook my head. "How do you explain that your body didn't break, but your spirit did?" I looked at my son, wide-eyed and silent, and finally I said it. Not to her, not to him, but to the room, to myself, to whatever version of me had stayed quiet too long. I let him step on me. The words dropped like lead. I let him stand on me, because I needed the job. Silence. I could feel both of them trying to understand. My son too young, my wife too stunned. I didn't fight back, I said, my voice shaking. I didn't say a word. I just knelt. The shame of it burned in my throat. But then I felt her hand wrap around mine. Not to fix it, not to explain it, just to hold it, so I wouldn't float away. I finally looked at my son. He didn't say anything. He just moved closer and leaned against me. That tiny gesture, his head on my arm, nearly crushed me. Because deep down, I wasn't afraid of being humiliated. I was afraid of what my silence had taught him. I didn't sleep that night, not because I couldn't, because I wouldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. His hand pointing, his voice calm and casual. Just kneel. And me, doing it, like it meant nothing, like I meant nothing. By morning, I felt like a man suspended in midair, neither here nor there, just stuck. I sat at the kitchen table long after everyone had left for school and work. My coffee went cold. The daylight crept slowly across the floor. That's when I opened my laptop. No plan, no outline, just a blank document, and something inside me screaming to get out. And I started typing. To whom it may concern. I've been with this company for 6 years. You've passed me in hallways, stood beside me in elevators, probably seen my name on emails you didn't open. I'm not writing this for attention, or pity, or to make trouble. I'm writing because silence has a cost. A few days ago, I was called to Mr. Langford's office. He needed a painting hung. The wall was too high. There was no ladder. He told me to kneel, and I did. I let him step on my back to hang a painting, not because I respected him, not because I believed in him, but because I was afraid of losing the paycheck that keeps my lights on, the health care my wife depends on, the school lunches my son carries in his backpack. I was afraid to say no, and what haunts me is not that he did it. It's that I said nothing. I walked out of that room like nothing happened. I came home and ate dinner with my family. I answered emails and filed reports. But inside, I've been breaking. I'm not sending this to HR. I'm sending it to all of you. Because I know I'm not the only one who's ever swallowed something just to survive another week. I know what fear looks like in a meeting room. I've seen the nods, the lowered eyes, the way we all pretend we're okay. If my silence was strength, I wouldn't feel so broken. This is not revenge. This is truth. Maybe if we stop pretending, things can finally change. Thomas Reed Finance, 6th floor. I read it 10 times, changed nothing. And then I hit send. To all employees. My hands didn't shake. My stomach didn't turn. I just closed the laptop and went to pick up my son from school. I didn't check my inbox that night. I didn't have to. Something had already shifted. It started with silence, but it ended with noise. The day after I sent the letter, my inbox exploded. Not with hate, not with mockery, with honesty. There were dozens, then hundreds of messages from people across every floor, every department. Names I didn't know, faces I barely recognized. They thanked me, shared their own stories, confessed things they hadn't said out loud in years. Some said they cried reading it. Some said they showed it to their spouses. One said, "I haven't looked at myself in the mirror for months." Today, I did. By noon, the letter had leaked outside the company. I hadn't sent it to the press, but someone did. And once it hit the news cycle, everything changed. The footage resurfaced. Major outlets ran headlines. CEO uses employee as human ladder. Tech tycoon caught in viral humiliation scandal. Silence, power, and a painting. The fall of Gerald Langford. Protesters showed up outside the office. Clients pulled out. Investors panicked. Board members held emergency meetings. And Langford? He stayed quiet for a while. Then came the press conference. Stiff suit, tight jaw, no apology, just a resignation. This company deserves a leader who reflects its values. That was it. No admission, no remorse, just an exit. He left the building through the back. No fanfare, no farewell. But me? I stayed. Not for long, but long enough. I received more job offers in a week than I had in my entire life. Some from companies I'd only dreamed of. But I didn't rush. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid anymore. There was no parade. no promotion, no magical reward, just something better. Peace. And one night, a few weeks after it all ended, I stood outside my son's bedroom door. He was sketching something with crayons, figures, a superhero of some kind, kneeling to help someone stand. I asked, "What's that?" He looked up at me and said, "It's a guy helping someone. Like how you help people at work." I didn't correct him. I just smiled, walked in, and sat on the edge of the bed. And I told him something I should have said a long time ago. I want you to grow up strong, but not silent. He nodded, like he understood. Maybe he didn't. But someday, he would. And when that day comes, he won't kneel.